Hey everybody, it's just another gamer, and today we're going to be talking about the game Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. So this is going to be a little bit of a different video for the channel. It's going to be more of a review about the game. So we're going to talk about some of the positives that I've found about the game. We're going to talk about some negatives that I found about the game. Overall, I have around 30 hours with both the base game and the DLC. So I've beaten both of them and went back and did some achievement hunting. Want to talk more about it and talk more about the cool mechanics and some of the things that I find interesting about the games, and then also some negatives. So let's jump right into it. So let's start by looking at the Steam page. So the overall reviews are very positive. The game released back in February 21st, 2024. There is really only one DLC. There are a few soundtracks here, but you look for DLC. There's one DLC. We'll talk more about this later. So this game reminds me a lot of a few other games with its different systems. Games like Call to Arms or Gates to Hell, two really good games and very interesting games. Definitely want to give them a look. So Metacritic gives it a 72. I know that not everyone cares about Metacritic, but it's something I figured I'd throw in there. Next thing I want to talk about is the recent update. I love that there is a latest update option on Steam now, and this one was January 20th, so that's fairly close. The game's still getting lots of updates, and even better, it has a roadmap for this year, which is always super positive, especially when you're talking about spending $40 on a game. It's always good to have those things. I like to emphasize the fact that there is still updates coming to it, because I know that some games are just kind of dead in the water. This game is not one of those games. It has updates that are going. I know I'm really focusing on the updates, but it's a big thing in my mind. I've bought tons of games that I'm really excited to play, and the last update was like 2 years ago. Okay, off this rant, let's get into the game.
It's in the box, Schrodinger.
A cat, some poison, and a cesium atom.
The cat, is it alive or dead? Alive or dead?
Answer him, fool.
It's a superposition of both states until you open it and collapse the wave function.
Says you.
So the story of this game is basically you are living in a post-apocalyptic world, that's a heck of a word to say, where AI has taken over. You are a part of a group called the Founders. They are basically the last remnants of human society. There are other factions that you will see and meet and get to interact with and trade with in some cases and do lots of missions for. So Legion, they are the AI robots. They are essentially taking prisoners, and you find this out during the tutorial. Your mission is to figure out why they're taking these human prisoners and what they're doing with them, because their job is to, get rid of humanity, kill everybody. So it's weird, that's basically the premise of the entire story, is find out why the enemy AI is taking prisoners and resolve whatever's going on. In the starting portion of the game, your base of operations is attacked by a huge Legion force. Almost everyone's killed, and you pretty much have to evacuate, and you can detonate the entirety of said facility. I wouldn't consider that a spoiler just because it is in the tutorial part of the game. So you are given the remaining forces from the facility to basically go on your own little military campaign to proceed with the mission. You eventually get in contact with the group that you were with and figured out a whole bunch of stuff, and stuff gets super crazy. Storyline's really good in my opinion. I do wish there were more missions, because it feels like there isn't a lot of missions, but the missions that you do have take forever. They are almost an hour each, and they are really fun. Let's get into some of the really cool features about this game and some of the things that I find really cool. One of the first things I want to talk about is the different kinds of units that you can find in the game and that you can get through missions. So there are tons of different factions. Well, not tons, there's a few different factions. And the integrators, they have different equipment compared to the enemy AI or rebel forces or the cartel. I think this is actually a cartel Jeep. I didn't say that, but I'm pretty sure that's where I got this Jeep from. So, and this right here is I think it's just a, what am I doing here? I think it is just a random truck you'll find from random people, just survivors. And then here is, of course, a military tank. But nearly every faction has different tanks and stuff, different kinds of vehicles, and it's really cool, the attention to detail. You'll have other stuff, we'll have bulldozers, which I think are one of the coolest things, and you can get quite a few of these actually throughout the campaign. And you have bulldozers fighting next to like experimental military tanks that I think may technically still be the integrators. I'm not sure if it's theirs for sure, but I know that there's a mission that goes along with it. But there are and there's even like long range artillery, one of the coolest things in the game. I for some reason I've had a lot of issues with them, but I think like I never can get them to, you know, do their job well. But that's probably not their fault. But and then there's like tractor trailers that you can put men in, and every single thing has a purpose. Like this right here is mainly for like infantry, because it doesn't have a huge gun, but you can get upgrades to have a grenade launcher or a missile launcher, and they all fit a perfect little niche that they are perfectly designed for. I mean, most of them, there are some of them that can do a lot more than just one thing. Like for instance, the Bradley. Where did my Bradley go? Right up here. I don't know why. What is it doing up here? Just driving on a circle. So the Bradley is I feel like it's one of the most diverse vehicles that there are in this game. And I can say I use this thing more than I use anything in combat. It is extremely versatile when it comes to like engagements. It's really all around the best vehicle. It can hit really, really hard, and depending on the different upgrades you get for it, it's really, really good. But there are just so many cool and unique vehicles in this game. And this is like one of the third, fourth mission in. And you can get all these. Depending on how you play the game, you can get an unbelievable amount of vehicles. Just from like, because there's a whole strategy behind it where you can use grenade or like missile launcher guys on like these guys that so here's a little mission thing.
Are you changing your mind about the kill?
Sorry. So you can use these guys. You can, when you attack like rebels, like these are just like a random gang. You attacking these guys, if you use this like these guys properly, you can take so many vehicles from them. Like an unbelievable. Like up here, for example, right. Where'd it go? Oh no, I think I might have got blown up in combat. There was a vehicle here that was incapacitated. Yeah, I think it's that right there. That was just sitting empty, and it could have been taken. I really wish I would have. But as you can see, like oh, that's right here. This can be taken. If this gets hit enough with just rockets, oh, actually, yeah, it's on fire, so they're gonna stop as long as I advance far enough, and he stops shooting. Don't shoot that. Don't use your main gun. Perfect. We'll just advance the troops a little bit. I can't see it. There might be a thing up here. But both of these things can be captured and be mined. They might be repairing this. Yeah, they're not repairing it anymore. We have a big turret right there. We might turn this around. Yeah, let's turn this around. We don't have enough supporting units to make it advance on this. But both these things can now be taken and put into my army. I can now own them and use them as I see fit once I capture them. Let's capture them. Let's get a good example of that here. The artillery is doing their best, but I have a cool shield thing that makes it so some projectiles are blown to pieces before they get to me. So as you see here, we can come up and steal them, and that is so cool. I can't tell you how cool I think that is. I think it's one of the most awesome features, and it just goes to show that you could get a ton of these, especially in missions like this where they spawn quite a bit. You can get a lot of them, and it can make up the entirety of your army. Because sometimes these things, because of the different attachments you can get and the different like armor that you can get for them, they can be in some cases better than tanks. And you can get double guns. Like you can get this thing mounted with a gun on the top, and you can get these quite a bit, and they also spawn throughout the map. So those are really, really cool details that you can just keep on. We're probably gonna pull this up so we can distract the artillery, but it's just really, really cool. And I think that's one really unique thing that you don't like. There are other games like Call to Arms has kind of a feature like this, but in that situation it's not as valuable. Like you can steal enemy tanks and stuff and enemy trucks and all that, but it's not nearly as useful as what I'm doing here. Like I'm stealing this, I'm gonna get this guy in here. This right here will be a huge part of my battle. Like there are some that are like, I'm not gonna say, I don't know what I'd use, what I'd use. I'd say there are some pieces of equipment that you need to have special alliances with factions to actually be able to use, due to the fact that they need to have certain kinds of ammo or gas. That's mainly with integrator stuff like this right here. I can't refuel this up without having their kind of.
What's he talking about?
Okay.
And I'm gonna stab this guy in the back because I want this tank for my fleet. And he's not gonna like that, but that's a whole other issue to deal with. But as you can see, we are about to take this. It needs to be repaired before I can pick it up and haul it off, you know, into my arsenal. I'm really hoping I can. There's a lot that's been done to this. If only I had one of my Bradleys, I could. Okay. Yeah, I'm risking a lot to get this. And this goes to show just how fast you can lose those awesome pieces of equipment, and that's a whole other thing that's just a whole other thing to transition into that kind of thing. These pieces of equipment that you work really hard to get, like this gunner thing, this awesome tank, it can be lost, and there's really no replacing it. There are some situations where you can buy. I'm gonna pull this up farther. It's getting like brutally hit. There are some situations where you can find them in the wild, and you can buy some variants and stuff. Like you can buy some tanks, but the upgrades you can't always. But this thing, you can only really buy them if you're friends with the integrators, and that is kind of, in my 2 or 3 playthroughs that I've done, it never really goes according to plan. I feel like I end up having to, you know, take them down in almost every situation. I don't know, it's just the way it goes. But when you're not friends with them, you can't get those pieces of equipment, and it really, you know, kind of, I don't want to say ruins, but it makes everything a little worse. Oh boy, let's pull this up here. But you can get, like I said, you can even get these too. Like you can get nearly anything. This right here, there's a whole other one that's all blown up that I can take now. Riley's been hit pretty good. Let's throw some smoke. But it's really, really cool features about the game, about this, like from whether you can steal vehicles to how many different kinds of vehicles there are to all the different uses that each vehicle has. It's so unique between all the factions. Like even when we're talking about just guys, like these guys can throw flares. I don't know why I did that. They can throw flares, they can put down mines, they have grenades, and all these things you can tell them that they can't use. Which is like a whole other layer. Like you can send them in only using like handguns. I wouldn't suggest it, but you can do it. It's really, really cool like that. And I can't believe and it's just so many cool things. Like this is now on fire. Hypothetically, one of these guys can jump in and take it. The attention to detail is absolutely awesome. This game is just, for like the cool little things that it adds to this, makes the game so much more fun. The next thing that I want to talk about is how beautiful this game is. From whether it's gunfights or just driving around, the trucks throw up dirt, and like watching your units get into combat and like fire between buildings or get shot at by tanks. It looks so good. You got the smoke belling off the blown up vehicle. You got the smoke that the Bradley deployed or whatever. I think it was Bradley that deployed, so people could, you know, not be attacked, or the firefight gets a little bit more intense. The other units have to get closer. It is absolutely beautiful. I think it looks really good. It doesn't take you don't have to have a really high-end PC for it to look this good. I think that's a huge bonus in and of itself, because there's a lot of modern games. So this game came out last year, so a lot of modern games you have to have a really high-end PC for it to look this good. And for it being an RTS, I feel like it looks really, really good. I think it looks good. Like I said, it's all up in the air. That's kind of like a big, it's a big opinion kind of thing. I think it looks good. Some people will say, well, there isn't enough detail, or there's enough like fog, or like, I don't know, when the guns fire there isn't enough smoke. But I don't know. People can be picky, but I think it looks really, really good. And for its price point, I think it's amazing, the quality and detail of like the graphics and stuff. But that is kind of like a personal preference, because some people may not think it's good, but I think it looks really good. Another thing that I want to touch on is how realistic this game is, and you may be like, how can a game be realistic if it's full of like AI robots and people that try to turn themselves into robots and all that? Well, I'm mainly talking about like the supplying methods this game gives you. Like every single machine needs gas to be repaired, and ammunition depending on the tank or whatever it is, whatever its job is. Every single vehicle that you get in this game, even units, every single person, every single unit, no matter what it is, if it's, you know, a little Yorkie following you around, or it's a death squad, or I don't know, a tank, it all needs to be supplied. And there's various ways to get supplies in this game, but the biggest one are like fuel trucks and gas trucks and supply trucks, and you'll find them throughout your gameplay. Like right here we have them, but when they run out, you know, you have to refill them with supplies you have in your caravan or supplies you find in the battlefield, and it's really, really cool. Like making sure every piece of equipment is properly supplied with ammo before going into combat, or making sure that you're able to re-up your troops on the battlefield is very, very crucial to your success in this game, and it just makes the game feel so much more real. Like this guy right here, he's out of main gun ammunition. Like he's not going to be able to fire his main gun, and it's going to slow him down and make him less valuable. That's why I need to find this guy right here. He's out of tow missiles. So I really should try to get him to a re-up station, or because there's those throughout the game too. Where is it? Like these right here. If I put somebody in this, they control it, and they have this much ammunition or whatever, or supplies to give to any truck that comes to it. And you can also, as I said, have trucks that carry supplies like this right here. This is empty because I've used it so much. So it's gas, but it doesn't have any ammunition. So no matter if I open it or not, it's not going to have any juice. This right here has a ton of gas. And I found myself having to leave vehicles behind because I don't have a lot of gas trucks. So they're really, really crucial to pick up. And it's just such an interesting, like, mechanic. It makes you think about every single piece of equipment that you have and its purpose and how you can get it from point A to point B. Like, in trailers, the more trailers you have, you can't like progress in like the map system of the game if all your like vehicles don't have people in them and all your trailers are hooked up to stuff. That's just another really interesting like attention to detail that's really, really cool, and I think that is really, really awesome for games like this that have a big emphasis on strategy. That's a whole nother like door to open for strategy. I think it's a really positive thing and really awesome, and I want to see that in more games, but it doesn't, you really just don't see it as much in other games, which makes me sad because it is so cool. Another thing I want to touch on is how valuable and important your units are in this game, and how every decision matters more than you could possibly think. Because there are a lot of units that are hard to get, and a lot of these things you can't just buy, it makes everything so much more important to make sure that you keep it safe and make sure that you take care of it. Because if you lose like a main battle tank, like this awesome battle tank I have up here, where is it? It's pretty damaged. Am I blind? Where did it go? Okay, right here. So if I lose this, it's going to either be a really long time before I get another one, or I'm just not going to get it, and it's going to make my overall forces much weaker. So that is really, like, that entire factor is really, really cool, because that makes you have to think a lot about every move that you make, because it could result in your entire game not really being able to progress. I have had that situation, especially when I lose like really important things. Like I've lost 3 Bradleys in one mission before, because I was not tactically thinking, and it made the next 2 missions so impossible that I had to reload, because I wasn't going to be able to like keep playing the game, just due to the fact that I had made bad, strategic decisions. And you see that in almost every engagement in this game. Losing something is a big deal.
I would never suck a guy's dick, but if I did, it'd be one of the best sucks he's ever had.
But yes, as I was saying, very, very important to every piece of equipment. It's very, very important how you analyze every engagement, because it can be quite literally the life and death of your playthrough if you are not careful and willing to change your ideas about how you play the game. Because it is hard. It does feel hard at times. It does feel like the game is working way hard, like working against you on a level that you don't quite, you didn't quite anticipate. But that's what makes a lot of these games fun. Like, feeling the struggle, in my opinion. I don't know, it all depends. Sometimes we differ, I understand, but it's really, really cool, and I really like how it feels like every situation you have to think about way more, because there is a chance that you are going to lose the entire game because you did. I think it puts more like pressure on each engagement, and makes it you really have to think about what you're doing and how it's going to affect you later on the run. It seems like I think it's a really cool aspect of the game, and I understand why people may think it's kind of too much and maybe not as fun because of that. But I think that's just, I don't want to say it's like a skill issue, but it's kind of what it is. I mean, this game, you can play any game on easy mode, but it's not always fun when you play on easy mode. But like I said, it's just so much fun. And it will be a challenge, and I know I struggled a lot when I first started playing it, because the tutorials are really good.
Sometimes it's easier said than done to watch a tutorial and then put that into action. On the field experience is really the best way, so like a second or third playthrough you'll be much better at doing what you need to do and understanding the mechanics, but that's with every game.
Another thing I want to touch on is how valuable and important your units are in this game, and how every decision matters more than you could possibly think. Because there are a lot of units that are hard to get, and a lot of these things you can't just buy. It makes everything so much more important to make sure that you keep it safe and make sure that you take care of it. Because if you lose like a main battle tank, like this awesome battle tank I have up here, where is it? It's pretty damaged. Am I blind? Where did it go? Okay, right here. So if I lose this, it's gonna either be a really long time before I get another one, or I'm just not going to get it, and it's gonna make my overall forces much weaker. So that is really, like, that entire factor is really, really cool, because that makes you have to think a lot about every move that you make, because it could result in your entire game not really being able to progress. I have had that situation, especially when I lose like really important things. Like I've lost 3 Bradleys in one mission before, because I was not tactically thinking, and it made the next 2 missions so impossible that I had to reload, because I wasn't going to be able to like keep playing the game, just due to the fact that I had made bad, strategic decisions. And you see that in almost every engagement in this game. Losing something is a big deal.
It makes every firefight a life or death, and it makes you think much more in detail about every move you're going to make, because when every move can be a game-changing move, losing a unit can be detrimental or devastating, whatever the word is, to your thing, you're going to think more about it.
But yes, as I was saying, very, very important to every piece of equipment. It's very, very important how you analyze every engagement, because it can be quite literally the life and death of your playthrough if you are not careful and willing to change your ideas about how you play the game. Because it is hard. It does feel hard at times. It does feel like the game is working way hard, like working against you on a level that you don't quite, you didn't quite anticipate. But that's what makes a lot of these games fun. Like, feeling the struggle, in my opinion. I don't know. It all depends. Sometimes we differ, I understand, but it's really, really cool. And I really like how it feels like every situation you have to think about way more, because there is a chance that you are going to lose the entire game because you did. I think it puts more like pressure on each engagement, and makes it you really have to think about what you're doing and how it's going to affect you later on the road. It seems like I think it's a really cool aspect of the game, and I understand why people may think it's kind of too much and maybe not as fun because of that. But I think that's just, I don't want to say it's like a skill issue, but it's kind of what it is. I mean, this game, you can play any game on easy mode, but it's not always fun when you play on easy mode. But it's, like I said, it's just so much fun, and it will be a challenge. And I know I struggled a lot when I first started playing it, because the tutorials are really good, but I think they could use maybe some different wording for some of the things they say. That's a whole other tangent, but it's not even that. Just you have to do what you gotta do. Another really cool thing about this game is, after playing this game for around 60 more hours and like having to replay missions and doing all this fun stuff, I haven't run into a lot of bugs at all. Like, it feels like the game is really ironed out. There are very few bugs that aren't just like, there's been issues like with trailers specifically with backing them up, but backing up a trailer in real life is a pain in the butt, so no wonder in a game might be a little, like, I haven't run into really any like soft locks or anything, so it feels like the game is really, really well put together. And that's really, really cool, because when we look at a lot of like strategy games, especially ones that are relatively new, they have a lot of bugs and a lot of ones that aren't addressed. But it seems like the development team on this game were really, really wise, and they must have known their stuff, and they ironed out a lot of like the stuff that made the game harder to play when it first launched, which is kind of, they did their job. But it's a thing to appreciate, especially with a lot of modern AAA games just not feeling like done at all. This game feels really done. There's like the only bug that I could possibly think of all the time I played this game, because I've been playing it, like I said, it's a fun game, I'm playing it quite a bit. The only bug that I have really had is with like maybe one guy. Like, I send this rocket team over here, and one of the guys gets maybe stuck on the way out the house, and all his teammates are all over there, and they will still be fighting. He'll just be running in place, and that's not that big of a deal. Like, yes, if you take that guy out when it comes, like when you're evacuating all your guys, if you take that guy out, it might be a little issue with like you might lose a man in your squad, but that's not like a bug that is game changing. It's really not that big of a deal. It's awesome. It's awesome that there's the games that they still make games that are put together. And that sounds kind of like complaining, but it's not. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to say that I think it's awesome that the game is put together, and I think that it's a really, really well put together game. And you don't really see a lot of those nowadays, which sounds horrible, but it's something that I think is really worth a good note, or worth noting. I don't know why I said worth a good note. That's weird. So I talked a little bit earlier about the supply system and how it's super important that you are making sure you have vehicles that can supply other vehicles. But also there's a factor where every single vehicle is supplied by your, overall supplies. So it costs supplies to repair stuff, and then you have to resupply, and it costs even more. And refueling costs supplies. So everything costs supplies, and you kind of have a finite amount of them. So it does get that is kind of a thing that I've seen in not only YouTube comment sections, but also the game reviews, and where I've struggled a little bit is the supply system. I wish there were maybe places you could go, just random places you could go to collect supplies, because you're going to run into a lot of situations where you don't have enough supplies, and you're going to have to recycle vehicles and stuff and people, and that's one of the most efficient ways of getting more supplies. But that's also sacrificing, and that's kind of a cool, I don't know, strategy thing, I guess you could call it. But also maybe it feels to other people like it's kind of a limiter to how many things you can get, because everything costs supplies to move. So the more stuff you get, the more you're going to have to spend on supplies, and eventually get to a point where you have so many things. I got to that point not too long ago where I had so many vehicles and so many men from buying them and finding them that I had to get rid of half of my fighting force just to be able to go from one place to another. And I got a lot of it from the mission, and it was cool to have all that extra, have all that, so much stuff, but it kind of didn't feel like it was worth getting all those cool guys. So I'm a little rat, I love to get tons of vehicles and tons of guys and all that. It's super awesome. It's super fun. It makes me feel like I'm building an army. But the problem is when you can't move that army, you don't have enough supplies to move the army, it's not really worth it. So it's kind of like the game wants you to have a ton of stuff, but it only wants you to have a certain amount, which I think isn't the coolest thing. I want to have a gigantic army, but you can't have everything, and I understand maybe why. Maybe it's there's reasons behind it. I think there definitely could be in future updates, or the future, the cool things that are coming in the roadmap. Maybe they could add ways to get more supplies, or maybe little bases to drop stuff. I don't know. It's hard, everyone has complaints, but it's hard to figure out what would fix some of these things, and just giving more supplies wouldn't, because that would take a lot of the strategy out of it, I think. I don't know. It's kind of, fixing it and then over fixing it are kind of a fine line in my mind. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it's one thing that is worth noting is supplies are very crucial, and it can make the difference in your game, because if you can't go from one place to another, you only have one option, and that is to just either sell all your stuff or load a previous save and try to do better in the previous mission, where you can get a bunch of stuff out to turn it into supplies. It's not always a foolproof plan, but I do think that it is, and I understand why the system is like that, because in real life, and in I don't know, if this is a situation, it does take you supplies from one place to another, no matter how you want to look at it. So it's kind of like into this game. I mean, this is a huge force. You can't just take all these things across half the state and be like, oh, it took nothing. It makes sense, but I understand the complaints that people are upset about it. So it would be cool if there was something like that, some different things to implemented to make it so that it didn't feel like supplies were kind of like a noose. But I understand it's hard. So that is one of the only things in my mind that really comes to that I think about when I think of negative things about this game. For how much enjoyment and how much fun it is, I think that is one thing that's understandable to be upset about, but it definitely shouldn't sway you from playing the game, especially with how fun it is and how cool the combat is and how awesome the in-depth, and the story alone. The story is really good, I would say. There are some things that I found confusing about it, and maybe plot holes they kind of left open, but it is a really, really good campaign, and kind of playing it, once the characters grow on you and you understand their backgrounds, there is some sad parts, and it's really, really cool. It's a really good story. Definitely play the story. I mean, they really don't have to. There isn't any sandbox yet, but it's coming from the roadmap, which would be so cool. I cannot wait for that. So I was doing some thinking, and another thing that I kind of thought about after I looked at all the missions and I played a bunch more of the game, I will say if there is another thing I really need to not even complain about that I want to mention is the game is kind of short. From beginning of end to the main campaign, it only took me about 30-ish hours. And that is kind of a lot of hours. And I did kind of screw around a lot. Like, I did go and look at every part of the map. I did get every possible vehicle that I could possibly get somebody into and get off the map. So I did a lot of messing around. So it probably only took me 24, 25-ish hours to get all the way through the entirety of the campaign. Which is, I don't know. I like longer games. In this game, I feel like it deserved a good bit more attention. I feel like maybe it needed. I don't even know if I'd say needed. This game is really. I like this game a lot. I like I said, all of the different features and all the different like weapons. It's all of it. I like the game a lot. I do kind of wish it was a little bit longer because it's so much fun. I wish there was more of it. Like, so that's. I don't know if that's really a complaint, but like I said, I do wish there was more of this game because it is so much fun. Like I said, it's honestly a really good campaign, and it's a lot like it's not buggy. There's a lot of good, cool features. Like, the game's done well, so there really isn't much to complain about. But those are kind of the two things that I was kind of upset with, and not even really upset. Like, the supply thing isn't really as much as a complaint as it is the fact that it's just a hard mechanic to get used to. Not even get used to or be like well at making sure you have supplies. Like, I don't even know, but yeah, those are really the two things that I'd really have to complain about, and they're really so small. But like, as I understand, making a game like this is hard, and then building a story around it is a little bit hard. Like, sometimes it could be harder. I don't know. It's like I said, it's not really a big thing, but that's just another thing I thought about and I wanted to mention. Just so if you were thinking that this game's going to be super long, it isn't the longest game, but it's a lot of fun and it's worth playing. So yeah. So overall, I would say this game is absolutely amazing and you should give it a buy. I am a little biased because I love these kinds of games that have like this kind of in-depth mechanics and the cool features that this game has. I feel like there aren't enough of them, and the ones that are either, I don't know if you'd say they're not getting updated as much as they should, or maybe they're companies that have made them have moved on. But that's kind of exactly what it is, and it sucks, but I think this game is so much fun. I love that it's still being like updated. I know that's, I keep on emphasizing that, and you may be like, why does he keep on talking about that? But you see it all the time where they're really, really awesome ideas just stop getting attention because either people just give up or they don't have enough funding or whatever. But this game is so much fun and it has so much potential, and I think that everyone should give it a shot, especially if you're into like first person, or not even first person, I'm sorry, if you're into real-time strategy games, like in games that have detail and that are harder, because it is a harder game. It's no walk in the park. There are a lot of situations where your game can go from being really fun to you feel like you just wasted hours because you lose or you didn't save properly. So I definitely think it's worth a buy. I don't know if I need to really give it, I don't know if I really need to give it like a rating, but I guess if I would, it'd be like 9.5 because there really isn't a lot to complain about. I don't know. I don't really feel like it's due a rating. I feel like it's just play the game. It's really, really fun. You'll have a good time. The story's awesome and the game itself is really, really fun. But if you need more, I'd guess 9.5. I don't know. There really aren't too many things to complain about. The only thing that I could find to really even be remotely, not even complaining, to be a little agitated with is the supply thing. Besides that, there's really nothing. It's such a fun game. It's worth it. Would I say it's worth the $40? I would pick it up on a Steam sale. That's just because there are so many Steam sales. Like, there are very few games on Steam that don't eventually go on sale, and relatively quickly. So it's, I don't. If you get a couple bucks off, I would go for it, but I wouldn't wait. Honestly, this game, I mean, it all depends. I bought this game when it was on sale, because you buy a game on sale, it's just you saving money. It's what it is. But I don't know. I wouldn't like be too bent out of shape if I paid $40 for this game. I honestly think it's worth it, and the fact that it has some interesting DLC, I think it's honestly really cool. So we'll talk about the DLC here in just a minute. But that's really what I want to say about the base game. I think it's a lot of fun and honestly worth it. So yeah, those are my opinions on the base game. Let's get into the DLC. So there's one more thing that I wanted to add to this video before I ended it, and it is the new feature that's coming. You got it right here. So essentially what it's going to be, it doesn't have a release date yet, but it's going to be a new DLC that's basically like I don't know if you'd call it a conquest or you'd call it a sandbox, but that is coming.
That is going to be the most amazing thing ever. I am going to get 1,000 hours in like 1 week of playing. That's not possible. I'm going to get a ridiculous amount of hours because I'm so excited for that game mode. I like this game a lot, and when this DLC comes out, I'm going to buy it like the second it comes out because of how awesome this game is. I can't even imagine the complex systems that are going to be in line with you trying to be friends with like certain civilized, like certain factions, you trying to annihilate certain others and like rebuild like as a country and a world to rebuild and overtake the AI. It's going to be an insane DLC, and I am so excited about it because when I first bought this game I thought this was already out, so I was more than excited, but it wasn't, and I'm okay with that because the story was all really, really good. This is going to be a game changer. This right here is I can't, for people who like this kind of game, I think it's going to change this game's entire, like, everything about it. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be awesome. I just wanted to add that because that right there is would be the biggest selling point if I watch this video. Like, that was what I was trying to think of. If I watch this video, what would I want to know? Like, what big things would I want to pull me into the game? And this would do it. So, just an extra thing I wanted to add, and I really hope that maybe it encourages words I can't say today. Encourages you guys to maybe pick the game up and give it a shot because it's a really, really good game. Really, really good game, and this is going to make it even better. So with the We Are Legion DLC, I'm gonna say that it is fun. It takes a kind of a big step away from the, like, I don't know if you want to call it, it kind of takes a step away from what the campaign was really, really good with, when it felt like your team and it felt like everything you did mattered. It takes a little bit of a step away from that, but I think that's kind of intentional, and I think it kind of had to with this kind of look. I will say the story itself was really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed the story, and I think for the story it's worth purchasing. I think if you're looking for like detail, it's not as much, and also it's kind of a lot shorter than the other, like the main game, which is understandable because it is a DLC, and I feel like that's kind of like an industry norm that like regular like the campaign's always going to be a lot, like the original campaign's always going to be a lot longer than the DLC. So I guess I can't really complain about that. Overall, it is fun. Like I will say the story is fun. It's engaging. I think it's definitely worth playing. And the price point isn't too bad. Like, it's not really something to complain about. I don't think that's a big deal at all. I'm pretty sure it's like $15 for without like a Steam sale. I got it on a Steam sale, so it's worth it. It honestly is worth it. It's there. Like I said, the really only complaint that I had is kind of that it takes a lot of the like feeling like you have a diverse unit that you built from your own, doing your own stuff, like doing those things you built. It kind of takes that aspect away because you are just another robot that's sent to fight. Like, there is really cool plot points that happen and stuff that builds the character, kind of like the robot, which is really cool. I won't get into it, I don't want to spoil anything. But without that, it just kind of feel like you're an unstoppable force that's just sent to murder. Even when you eventually, I will say, there's a little bit of a spoiler, so if you're watching this, you haven't beat the game, probably don't watch this next part. There is a part where you go after the main character of the actual game, where you go after him, and there's kind of a couple cool things where you see, like, if you have your, like, saved game of you beating your campaign on the computer, it'll use some of the forces. At least that's what I think I kind of noticed. That's not, like, definitive, but I think that's what happened, because there was, like, a lot of my units that I had that were also like I was fighting them, but they had my same customizations. I don't know, maybe I was looking into it too much, maybe it's not that, I'm just thinking about it too much, but I don't know, but it is worth it. Like, it was a lot of fun, and it didn't feel like the main protagonist of the, I think his name's Alex, no, it's Church actually, I think, but there is a point where it feels like we just bulldozed over him. Like, it didn't even there's really nothing to it, and it just kind of sucked, you know. I mean, that part of it kind of sucked. Like, it didn't feel like there was enough of a struggle, and I understand why, but because there are like certain plot points about it. But it's worth it. It's worth the money without a sale. It's a lot of fun. I would definitely suggest getting it. But like I said, it's not as long and not as like gripping with the unit like customization. It isn't as detailed as the campaign, but it's a lot of fun and it's worth getting. So I would definitely give it a shot. So with all that said, I really think it's an awesome game, and I think people who like these kinds of games will play it and enjoy it because it is really detailed and it has a lot of cool features, and it is kind of a
breath of fresh air in the genre of like turn-based like team building fighting games, and it is for the most part really well put together. There isn't, I can't even say that for the most part, it is a really well put together game. The storyline is solid. The like fighting in the game is so much fun. You get invested in the people. It takes skill. It does take skill, because there are going to be times where you have to think about your engagements before you engage them, because it's hard. It's a lot of fun. I would definitely suggest it to anyone who likes these kinds of games. It's so much fun. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I think that's kind of where we're going to end this. So if you liked the video, leave a like, maybe a subscribe, and if you didn't like the video, tell me why, or if you have something I could have done a little differently that you may have wanted to know, or something that I didn't add. I've never done a review. This is going to be my first one. It's going to be a little janky, a little weird, because I've never really done it, but I think this is kind of the recipe that I would want if I was going to buy this game. This is the stuff that I would want to see and I'd want to understand in gameplay and stuff like that. So yeah, if you like the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. And you made it this far, you're amazing. I really appreciate you, supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.